Hey there, YouTubers. What's going on? It's Too Much Food, where I cover games, game news, game reviews, game culture, and culture. Today is a strange day, but a special day nonetheless, because as you may know, for those who follow me, I do Google Hangouts, but I'm usually the special guest on the other shows. But this time, I have an extremely special guest. I have Adam Koralik from Figure It Out Productions with me. How are you doing today, Adam?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here.
No problem. Thanks for making some time to swing by and talk some gaming with me and for my viewers. Um, so, Adam, as both you and I know, you have a YouTube channel under Adam Koralik. And can you tell us a little more about your channel and what it is that it's based on?
Like the history of it, or just what I'm doing now?
What you're doing now?
Now I basically just do for the channel you're referring to. I just do a lot of video game videos, mostly where I either discuss what's going on with games or I show things like pickups. I go to a lot of game stores and do like tours of those places. I kind of do whatever random video pops into my head. Sometimes, it's just an unboxing video, or like I'll be like, oh, maybe today I want to talk about how to get the best video quality out of the PlayStation 2. Like just random things that come into my mind. I was just like, all right, I'll do a video on that. So that's basically what I've been doing lately.
And that's actually something I find pretty fascinating, because you actually are so thorough, I think, beyond what you need to be. Like, as you mentioned, getting the best quality you can out of the PlayStation 2. I've seen videos, actually probably like 4 or maybe more, if I'm incorrect, about how to get the best quality video out of the Dreamcast. And I've seen like through VGA and through SCART and through HDMI and through your dreams. I mean, you're really, really thorough, and that's what I love, man. And you're always having a great time too. So speaking of the Dreamcast, you kind of started your channel based off of a series that you have called Keep Dreaming, correct?
It wasn't exactly how it started, but that's definitely what it mutated into. Yeah.
Did you think by any chance at the time when you started it that your channel would have taken off and done so well based off of your the the content that you have of the Dreamcast?
No, that was never, I never planned that, man. Like my background is in film. And when I created the channel, it was largely going to be a place to house short films I was directing and working on, as well as a bunch of other projects I had. And I was, kind of running into scheduling conflicts back then. And I was like, oh, I need just some more content. Well, what do I know? Well, I know video games. So let me talk about some video game stuff. There's a longer story as to specifically why I started with the Dreamcast, but just one day I was like, all right, I'll just post this Dreamcast video, and people started watching it. So I kept posting more, and here we are at nearly 65,000 subs for some reason.
Well, I mean, you can't really say for some reason. You got to at least know, since you're heavily educated in your field of film and stuff, that you know how to provide this information and how to make it appealing. I mean, I remember when I first started watching your channel, I was on YouTube, obviously. And this is around the time that I got my Xbox 360. And I just wanted to know more about the generation I was in. At the time was the 7th generation and the generations before it, because I'm 27. And when I was 10 and 5 years old, I was just gaming. I didn't know too much. I just played whatever was put in front of my TV, and that was it. So I wanted to see what I missed. And I entered the name Sega Dreamcast, and there was your channel. And since that day, I was hooked.
I appreciate that. But I'm telling you the truth. I don't entirely know why people watch me. I do appreciate it. But even as you keep pointing out, like I take forever to get to the point, just like I am kind of now. It's just my nature. So yeah, I don't know exactly why people gravitate to that, but I'm glad they do. I like to be thorough, but yeah, sometimes, like you said, maybe it's a little redundant at times.
It's not. I mean, it can't be. It's not a bad thing to me. Something
Good.
something that I think of, which I don't know if it's me just pulling it out my ass or whatever, but like when I think about your style of being or explaining things, I think of Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he just rambles and rambles and rambles and rambles, and I'm like, dude, he's still talking. But then at the end of whenever he's done talking, my IQ has increased, and I've learned so much. And what I think is funny is I learned way more about the Dreamcast than from you than I did from the company Sega.
Well, first, thank you. Comparing me to Neil deGrasse Tyson, that is literally the first time that has ever happened, or probably ever will happen. It's interesting you put it in that perspective, because it's hard for me to watch it from that standpoint. From my end, I'm just talking. Like I'm not making shit up, but I'm talking, and I don't know. It's hard for me to learn from myself, I guess, in that sense. So it's interesting to hear someone else's perspective on it, because comparing it to certainly Neil deGrasse Tyson, I know exactly what you mean. When I hear that dude talk, I'm like, wow, he's going on, but I am absorbing all of this. I am paying attention to all of this. So, okay, I think I get what you're saying. I wouldn't give myself that specific honor, but thank you for doing so.
I mean, you can definitely grow the stash, as we can see. All you got to do is wear sweaters like him.
Rock the beard,
man. And watching your videos gave me that same kind of feel. Like after I watched something Neil deGrasse Tyson related, like I learned something, I go talk to people about it. I remember after I watched like 5 or 6 Dreamcast videos that you made, I went to my brother. He came home from work like at 8 p.m. and I immediately bombarded him at the door because I needed to talk to somebody about Dreamcast. And and I was like, hey, have you ever heard of this before? And he's like, yeah, my friend had it, and we played a few games here and there about it. And I was just totally amazed at, because I feel like I missed it. Like I barely knew about its existence, and it was just crazy how it just went past me. So I needed to learn all these things, because I was like, what happened to Sega? I mean, like you, I was a huge Sega fan. I vividly remember being 5 years old, and my mom got us the Sega Genesis, and it was in I believe, I think 1994 or 1993, and it was for Christmas. It has the Sega or Sonic and Tails on it. It was amazing. So I enjoyed that for many, many years. And then growing up, I had that until I was probably like in 3rd grade, and I had a PlayStation. So as you could imagine, I missed out on the Sega Saturn. And then after the PS1, we went to the PS2 in my family, in my household, and I missed out on the Dreamcast. So there was just so much I missed. And I can't go anywhere online like looking for articles to learn something that I haven't yet, because I mean, you have been the absolute most thorough person that speaks on behalf of Dreamcast. So I gotta say, you've done a really good job, and your channel shows it. So you're at 65,000 subs. I mean, 65,000 other people agree with me. So do you think you will be continuing to make Keeping the Dream videos, or you think you're tapped out since you've pretty much covered everything?
Well, first, thank you. That's highly flattering. It really wasn't my intention. Like, honestly, when I started making Dreamcast videos, I just needed my production company to have more content. And like I said, I knew a lot about the Dreamcast, so that's why I was doing videos on it. You're not alone, though. I know I've heard that from other people saying, like, dude, you inspired me, the Dreamcast, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, guy, wow, that's flattering, because that was never the plan. I'm glad, but that was never the plan. But that's very awesome. And I can also relate to your story there, because I had a Genesis growing up, and then like I completely missed the Saturn. I missed the add-ons, even though I knew a friend who had a 32X. But I did hit the Dreamcast, obviously, and that was really awesome. As for making new episodes, yes. Way back in the day, my plan for the Dreamcast was, after I had finished all of the consoles, I wanted to do all the accessories. After I finished all the accessories, I wanted to do all the random little trinkets and merchandise I had. And then after I was done with that, I wanted to do all of the games, because I have a full game set. However, I never really finished all the accessories or all the little trinkets. And I never started on the games, because I kind of realized that would be borderline impossible, because there's something like 800 games. And just try to imagine doing a video on every single one. You put out one video every day, you're doing it for over 2 years. You know, like that's not practical. And that, of course, is assuming you manage to do one every day, which I never could possibly do. Also, at the same time that I was thinking about finally getting into all the games, like to actually do videos on every single one, that's when YouTube's like copyright war started happening. And I know it originally Sega was a big enemy. Like they were going after a lot of people until they eventually resolved that. So attention people, it's now safe. You can put Sega videos up there. I don't know, but I never really went back to it in that sense because I just kind of I moved on with other content. Though occasionally when a new Dreamcast item drops, I do a video on it, or if I think of some particularly good subject I want to do, I do a video on it. But I think I've kind of got to a point on the channel where I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, other viewers, not just you, but anybody who's watching. Like, I think we've moved past the point where I could just take out like some Mad Catz controller and be able to talk for 4 minutes and be like, yeah, this controller, it's all right. And I don't know, it kind of sucks. The button doesn't work that well. Like, I think we've moved past the point of that being socially acceptable. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I mean, I haven't watched something like that in a long time because, I mean, I think add-ons have gone the way of, you know, the mammoth. It's just, it's no, there's rarely, I can't think of anything that uses add-ons anymore like that. And even a Mad Catz item, you lost me there because my experience with them, I'm sure a lot of others' experience with Mad Catz item is that they fall apart faster than a graham cracker. It's just
exactly
bad quality.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if I had found some other random controller, which there are some I have that I never did videos on. I just think it's potentially possible that I'm at a point where people in the comments would be pissed off if I did a video about something like that at this point. They're like, really? You spent a whole video talking about like just one angle of this control. I just don't think where Keep Dreaming started is where it could possibly continue to go. So with that, I more or less put it on pause, though I did put out an episode 2 days ago, at the time we record this, for the Dreamcast birthday. And I will be doing another one because there's a new game coming up, called Ghostblade. And also I'll do a video on that. So pretty much these days, I only really do it on new games. I also did one on the Mill CD exploit, which was like a discussion video about why the Dreamcast can play burn stuff, basically. Yeah. But you know, beyond that, I don't know, man. Maybe I would do more accessories. Maybe I would do more of those VGA boxes. But there's only so many times you can talk about a VGA box, you know.
But hey, I keep watching them. I mean,
I appreciate that.
I agree that there's only so many times, but I think it's as many times as you keep getting a hold of these things. Because when watching your videos, you're like, shout out to so and so, he sent me this, and I'm like, who are these people, and how is it that they can make these items? Like, I don't understand how you know these talented guys that make custom pieces of hardware to have an HDMI port and be, you know, a SCART and all this stuff. Like I've never seen anybody else on YouTube with that kind of resource.
So I believe you're referring to the Bahar Bros. They're the guys who make the custom VGA boxes like the Toro and the Hanzo and all these like handmade ones from Turkey. So it's really funny that you mentioned that. You're going to be the first person other than my girlfriend to know this, and I guess the Bahar Bros themselves. They mailed me a new one, their latest model. I have it. I have not even opened it because I was, you know, saying like debating whether or not I'll make a video with it or not or whatever. I like to open the stuff in the video so you guys know like this is my first time using it too. I haven't done that yet. I'm thinking though that I might just throw it in an end of playload because I talked to them and they're like, dude, this is just for you. You don't have to make a video on this. Even they said like, there's only so many times you can say, yeah, VGA is a thing. But you know, like, so I'm thinking I'll just show it, but I'm thinking it doesn't really need its own dedicated video. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think of that?
I think you do need a dedicated video. And I know you may think like, see, there you go. You're like, ugh. But, you know, the thing is that there will be all those people watching. They will love it. They're going to thumbs up it. They're going to comment and they're going to learn something. And the thing is that you're not going to be like, here's a cable. It goes in the port of your console and that's it. Like you're like we mentioned before, you're extremely thorough. And I think it's exciting when you get a hold of these items because I know I'm never gonna get a hold of an item like that, so I want to be able to see it in the next form that I can via video, and I learn about it, or or if I do get determined, maybe I can try to get a hold of something like that. You know, when I bought, after watching like your Dreamcast videos, I went out and bought a Sega Dreamcast for like $30. I picked up a few games like Sonic and Tokyo Extreme Racer, which I loved very, very much. I enjoyed the games, but it was hard for me to enjoy the video quality, and it happened to do with that I bought like a third-party cable that I feel like was just made out of, you know, string, like
those shitty Tomy white ones.
Yeah, it was just really
I'm
real
crap. I'm always telling people do not buy those pieces of crap, but people do it anyway.
It was like $12, and it was the only thing they offered there.
That's why.
It's the only thing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're a victim of it, but doesn't it occur to you, like, if it's that cheap, there might be a reason?
I know, but
it sucks. Like, it's terrible build quality.
It was that or not played at all. And the funny thing is that after playing for a few weeks, I was like, I'm going to choose not to play it at all because those cables are awful. So I've been sitting. Okay, here's the funny part. For some reason, I bought a second Dreamcast. So I've been sitting on two Dreamcasts. Actually, you know what? I think I'm starting to remember why I bought two. Is because I wanted to do like some modding and stuff to it, and I wanted to keep one original and then one to tinker with. And I haven't really gotten around to that because I wanted to do like the whole VGA stuff, and then you put out a new video of something else you can do. And then I wanted to do that. And then you put out another video of how you can do HDMI. So like every time I decide that I'm going to do something with it, you put out another video that makes me say, whoa, hold on, let me do this instead. So
sorry,
I'm pretty much waiting for you to put up a video on how to have your Dreamcast run in 4K. All
right, I'll make some calls. I'll see what I can do about that.
So I think you're very, very resourceful, and I just think it's hilarious because I feel like in some other life you were like a Sega executive, because I mean every one of them I've not heard, not even in the slightest, gone so detailed as you.
It's
so,
not, yeah. Well,
go ahead.
Thank you. No. I was just gonna say it. Thank you. That's it. Really, just thank you.
Okay. So talking about games,
yes,
for the Dreamcast, I know there's a specific game that you like very, very much on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, there's one or two. Yeah.
And it's funny. Don't kill me, but I haven't played it yet. But I have a very good reason. As we all know, there was a Kickstarter started this year, I believe, for Shenmue 3, which you are a fan of the Shenmue series. Because of this Kickstarter, I really don't want to try to go out and seek and find Shenmue 1 and 2, because what I'm kind of hoping is that there's like a Shenmue collection that comes out. Mm-hmm. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm going to have to go the older route. But as the cat's out of the bag, you're a Shenmue fan, and there's a few questions that I have personally on my own, because a lot of the questions I ask you are things that I know about already, but I'm asking for those who are going to watch this video and they're not familiar with you yet. But I'm kind of excited because there's something about Shenmue that I would like to know, like, because my personal favorite game, I can tell you why I like it, when it happened, how it got my attention. And I kind of wanted to hear that from you. Like, why Shenmue? What happened that day that made you like definitively be like, this is it, greatest game ever?
Oh, that day. That's a reference you won't get, but that's to the game. Okay. Someone else is gonna get that reference. That's fine. No, why did I gravitate towards Shenmue so much? The irony is, when I first played it, I did not. I played it in 2000 when it came out in North America. I kept seeing the ads for it, and I really didn't think much of it. I don't know why, but a buddy of mine forced me to rent it. Like, I did not even want to play. I didn't even want to rent the damn game. Like, I just had no interest at all. And we got it back. We were playing it for a while, and it didn't do anything for me. Nothing. He's playing the game, and I was just like, this is atrocious. What the hell are we doing? You know, why don't, like, there's an arcade in that game where you can go play a little like Hang On and Afterburn or Space Harrier. And I was like, let's just go in there and play that. Like, what is this? What are we doing? And I did not get it at all. And then like 3 years later, I don't know exactly what possessed me to do this, but I was taking a road trip out to New Jersey, and my mother was driving at the time, and I had nothing to do in the back of the car. So I brought my Dreamcast, which I've done a video on. It's a Chinese knockoff Dreamcast with a screen built into it. And I was like, I'm going to need something that can dominate the time span of this drive, right? Because we're not pulling an all-nighter. We're going to have to like stop in hotels and all that shit. And I was like, I need some kind of game that's going to be long. It's like, well, it's been a few years. Let me try that Shenmue thing again. Because at one point, a friend had just given me their copy. So I had a copy. So I ended up playing it and being like, wow, this is amazing. I don't know why I missed it so hard the first time. But that second time, I just played through. I was like, everything was captivating me. The story was working for me. I was like, visually, this is breathtaking. I don't know. And then I got, when we got there, I already owned Shenmue 2 because a friend of mine had basically bought the Dreamcast version. Well, okay, to be fair, I bought the Dreamcast version because I found it at a GameStop, but I bought it for him because he wanted to play it. And he ultimately let me keep it because he didn't even own a Dreamcast. He just paid for it because he really wanted to play it that bad. He paid me back, I guess I should say. And so I brought it with just, like in the event that a miracle happened and I liked Shenmue, which I did. So I'm glad I brought it. And the whole vacation, I should have been going out to the beach and going doing things, but I sat there and played Shenmue 2 the entire time. I never left because I was so addicted to it. And I loved that game. I don't know what it was. I just fell completely in love with those games. I thought they just did an amazing job of being immerseful into that environment. Like they have a very slow pace, but that's kind of the point. It's meant to captivate you, get your attention, get you fully emotionally invested. And then when things happen, you're not playing a game anymore. You're like being this dude. You're being his life. You are the physical, world representation of him in a sense. It's really hard to describe because to most people, yeah, it's just a video game. But if you really get into it, as a lot of us obviously have, they can all tell you the same thing. It's like you become immersed in the experience that is Shenmue. And so that's really kind of when it happened for me. And then of course I was fighting the good fight for all those years to try and get this game to happen. The third one, I mean.
And you know what? I was so happy when they announced Shenmue 3, and you may think that's a little weird, considering I haven't played Shenmue 1 and 2 yet. But
why in the world would I think being happy about Shenmue 3 being announced is weird? I think about it, like, even if you don't like the game, that's fine. It's amazing for the purposes of the gaming industry that a game like that punched its way out of the grave. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's fine, and that's one of my 2 points. Because or one of the 2 reasons why I was happy. One, I was at work, and I remember like I whip out my phone when I'm not supposed to, and I see an article saying Shenmue 3's coming, and I'm like, holy shit! I know Adam's ripping his clothes off right now. He is insanely happy. And 2, I was thinking just that. I was like, I feel like this is a good thing. It's nice to see that a game that was just dead, no whispers, no rumors, nothing. It is just gone, and it's a demand. It's part of a campaign that a bunch of people on Twitter are trying to, bring awareness to. It seemed like it's something that's just never gonna happen. And there it was on a big old stage being promoted by companies. And it's very exciting. So it led me to believe maybe we can see sequels to other games that we don't have sequels to that definitely deserve one.
I'm inclined to agree. I think I talked a little bit about this before on my channel, but yeah, Shenmue definitely, I think, opened a lot of people's eyes to the viability of previously dead franchises as long as they're handled with a responsible budget. Though I would actually give more credit to Mighty Number 9 than anybody else. I mean, Mighty Number 9 is essentially the next Mega Man game, but that for legal reasons they had to retool it, change the name, change the character. But then we saw that pattern happen over and over. Banjo-Kazooie became Yooka-Laylee, and Castlevania became Bloodstained, and Shenmue was the first one of those like massive fan franchises that's owned by some dead ass IP owner who won't do anything with it, where they actually allowed them to go off and make the game. They said, we won't get in your way. You can use the characters. You can use the name. Go ahead. We won't fund it, but we won't stop you. And I think that that's a good attitude to have going towards the future, because there's any number of franchises, especially on Sega's end. Holy shit, that they have some IPs that they're holding hostage. If they're willing to play ball, you could see, who knows, frankly, like Rystar 2, for all we know, Knights 3. I mean, who knows? But there could be amazing stuff coming out of them.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned Knights 3, because I was thinking possibly with how VR and augmented reality is coming, I think a Knights 3 would definitely be interesting, don't you think?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it really depends on who the developer is, I guess.
I mean, if not, it'd be a pretty cool acid trip, if anything.
Right.
I know. Well, what do you think about these two things? First and foremost, Sega not publishing it for some damn reason, and 2, Sony picking it up.
One, with Sega, that is in absolutely no way surprising. I mean, they didn't do anything with it for all that time, and honestly, guys, I know I say this on my channel too, I don't blame them. Shenmue was a massive, not only financial investment, but just time and effort investment on Sega's part. And they really got nothing out of it other than a fan base that annoys the hell out of them on a regular basis. So I can see why they just wanted to let it go. So that doesn't surprise me. Plus, I mean, if you look at modern day Sega, they don't even make games anymore.
They really don't.
They really don't. Like, their last game was what, Sonic Boom? Like, that was their last one that was on a console. Now they might be changing based on some stuff that we read somewhat recently about how they might be doing something at TGS. There is, whispers of a Shenmue HD collection being announced by them, which would be amazing.
Yes.
No confirmation on that, but that would be nice.
It would be.
Now, in regards to Sony, dude, I called that years ago. You look it up. There's a video I did, like, why Shenmue only makes sense on PS4. I put it out like 2 or 3 years ago, and I elaborately said, like, here's all the reasons why this is. I mean, and I'm not even a big Sony supporter. Like, they've always been generally my least favorite in every generation. Not always, but but in a lot of cases, I was like, I'm just not a huge fan of their products. But I was like, socially and economically, they make sense. But I got so much shit for that video, dude. It's unbelievable. And then fast forward to when that almost exactly what I said was the only way it could ever work actually happened. Granted, there were slight differences, because who could call 100% of the things. But after that happened, I got a bunch of people, even people who gave me serious shit, came back and were like, "Yeah, sorry, I was wrong." And I was like, I accept the apology. I didn't care about being right or wrong. I just wanted the damn game to happen. I was just, in a sense, I was happy that I ended up being right in the way I thought it would go about. But I've been saying for years that Sony made perfect sense. Though they didn't do it the way I would have hoped. And that's the way I think that a lot of people were hoping, was that Sony would completely bankroll the game. It never really occurred to me that they would do a mixed Kickstarter / Sony's paying for marketing type of deal that they ended up going with. But the end of the day, the game's coming and I'm happy about it.
So what I'm kind of hoping for is that as you have mentioned, Sony's always been my least favorite since the PS1, because the PS1 to me was like their pinnacle. That's my opinion. But
no, I agree with that opinion, actually. I'm sure I'll get shit for it, but I agree with it.
Well, from some of my fans, or possibly because I also got trolls that pretty much disagree with me that has to do anything with Sony. But anyways,
I get that too, dude.
I'm not alone.
You could give the most neutral statement in the world and you'll still get trolls. It happens.
You could be like, I like the color manila.
No, no, you can't. You could be like the sky is blue today. Fuck you. It's somewhat amber. Like you just get so much shit. It's not worth the time. Never pay attention to him. But anyway, yes, back on point. Sony. Sorry.
Yeah. Something I do know that they're fairly good at is advertising. I mean, they've tricked people into thinking Batman was exclusive on their console with all their Batman advertising. Now they advertise their exclusive deals with Battlefield, with Call of Duty, with Assassin's Creed, with Destiny, with their Taco Bell bundle that they have there. They're really good at marketing. I'll give them that. So I'm kind of hoping that they really do put their marketing might behind it, like they have been, because obviously their marketing has been working. They're far ahead in the console wars in terms of sales. And why I hope that is because I think this deserves royal treatment for what it represents. And two, I feel bad. I didn't make a video about it. I thought about doing a video about it, but about me feeling really bad for the Shenmue fans, because Shenmue 3 was so restricted based off of that Kickstarter. The experience you're getting was based off of how much money people were going to shell out their own pockets. And with that, where did the milestone end there?
They ended up at 6.3 million.
And their milestone, like to do the full game, was 10 million, correct?
That's what he was hoping for. However, it's worth noting at some point they're going to add PayPal donations in, which is a lot of people held back on to basically get to more goals. But I read an interview with him really recently. He doesn't seem disturbed by that. He thinks that we'll be pretty happy with what we get.
Okay.
For what that's worth. That's what Yu Suzuki said.
So what I'm hoping is with all that being said and done, like it does well. And then, one day you're just playing Shenmue 3 like you do on an average day, and they announce DLC in the form of finishing the story. Do you think that might be a possibility?
Certainly possible, but I guess I have hope that Yu Suzuki would not do that. But I don't know. That would really be his call. When you say finishing the story, do you mean finishing the third game or finishing all of Shenmue?
Finishing the third game.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be a Telltale episode pack type of game, if that's what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I don't think it will be either, but I'm kind of hoping, because I just feel like after the following that it's gotten, I really wanted you guys to have a full blown game. Go ahead.
I think we will, but I will not be at all surprised if we get stupid micromanagement type of DLC, like changed Rio's shoe color or something dumb. I think we're gonna get a lot of stupid shit like that. But I would be really surprised if there was quote unquote meaningful DLC in this game, because I mean, at least the way the first two played, that wouldn't really lend itself, because while they're open world, they're very linear in their open world type of nature. So to add like whole new submissions really wouldn't work, at least assuming they continue the same formula they had. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if they have like DLC packs of different types of capsule toys or something, which would annoy me, but like it wouldn't be a deal breaker.
And well, that I want to kind of like backtrack for a second.
Sure.
So we just pretty much covered Shenmue 3 for a bit. Shenmue 1 and 2, 1 was only on the Dreamcast, and then Shenmue 2 made it to the Dreamcast and the Xbox, the OG Xbox, correct?
Yes.
You played both versions, right?
Yes.
And can you tell me like what the differences are between both the Dreamcast version and the Xbox version?
Sure. Okay, so the Dreamcast version was only released in Japan and Europe. North America never got it due to a really shady deal. That shady deal resulted in the Xbox version being created at all, and is why we only got the Xbox version in North America. Europe, however, got both versions. Japan never saw the Xbox version. In the case of the Xbox, the most obvious difference is that the game is dubbed into English with Corey Marshall reprising his role as Ryo Hazuki. unrelated. I just did a podcast with him on my channel. If you guys want to check
Oh
that
my
out.
God, really?
Yeah, no, really. Like it went up yesterday at the time we're recording this, September 10th. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think it's really cool that I've been like triggering things that have recently been happening, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty excited because now I got something to watch after this.
It's not a visually interesting video. It's one still shot. Just turn it on and listen for an hour.
It's all good. I got really good audio equipment, and
Excellent.
I prefer it that way.
Yeah, make a sandwich, get a drink, and listen to it.
I got. No, I was just gonna say I got some Oktoberfest, so that sounds like a good plan.
There you go.
The reason why I'm asking about the two games and the differences in that is because a lot of my subscribers, they're mainly Xbox and Nintendo fans,
Yes.
and I kind of wanted to let the Xbox fans that still own their OG Xbox know that this Shenmue game that's coming out, the third one, there's the part 2 is actually available on the Xbox, the original. So I'm kind of trying to bring in like some awareness to that, so that way they could possibly try to find it and pick it up somewhere.
All right, so let me continue on the differences there. Like I said, the versions, Shenmue 2 on the Xbox is dubbed into English, which is the most obvious difference. It has certain technical benefits. It's one disc instead of 4. It has better loading times, that kind of thing. They also added a kind of a pointless camera function where at any time you could just capture the frame that you're looking at, and it would save it as a JPEG somewhere on the Xbox that you could take a look at later. However, I actually very seriously dislike that version of the game because one of the most crucial features of Shenmue, at least Shenmue 1 and 2, was the ability to transfer your save from the first game to your second. And a lot of people grossly misunderstand this feature because they think, oh, all you're doing is transferring like items you acquired, and that items have no point. It's not just that, it's also you're carrying over your calendar, you're carrying your character's history. In the first game, you can level up the character. Like Ryo can buy martial arts skills and he can master them because there is absolutely no training function in the second game. So like however strong you make him in the first game is how strong he will be in the second game. So you get items like that, you get fighting skills. You also, there's certain decisions you make in the first game, some that are subtle. People who have played Shenmue might be familiar with this. There's a part in that game where you're at the harbor and a girl comes up to you and she's like, hey, take a photo with this other girl. And she takes 2 photos. One of them is where you're like really close to the girl, and then the other photo you're far apart. And you have to decide which photo you want. Now we don't know this, but we know that the photo could determine if you end up with that girl at the end of the franchise, because you see the same photo in the second game. So while I do like the Xbox version, I guess I would never recommend it to anyone unless they have absolutely no choice, because you really miss out on a lot of stuff. You just kind of start from the developer's blank slate of the second game. And personally, as I said at the beginning, like that's a game that you have to really experience and just kind of have absorb you. And so when you just start off the second one with someone else's experience, it's not yours anymore. So to me, I don't know, it might sound silly to people, and maybe it won't even matter because maybe it might not be possible to get a save transferred to the third game unless there is some sort of HD collection. But yeah, if you only have the Xbox and that's your only way to go about it, yeah, get Shenmue 2 on the Xbox, but you'd still have to get a Dreamcast to play Shenmue 1. Absolutely.
And I think that's for the person who absolutely has no means to get the Dreamcast version and or has no intentions to get the Dreamcast to do that. And the funny thing is that even though I could have definitely done that because I've seen Shenmue 2 going the first $60 on the Xbox. I could have done that myself, but I'm kind of loyal. It's funny. I'm kind of loyal to the game without even having played it. Like, I won't even watch videos that go too in depth into the game because I don't want to spoil anything. I only know the basics, and I only know enough to, on purpose, I limit my knowledge on it, but I know enough to like kind of promote it because there's people that have heard of it and they don't know too much. And I try to inform them based off of this video that you recommended once on your channel, actually twice on your channel. And then again, when you did the live stream with
Philippa.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mrs. Claus, but I
You
didn't
can
know.
say Mrs. Claus. Doesn't matter.
Mrs.
My girlfriend.
Claus.
Hi, dear.
And it's I forget the name of it, but it was pretty much explaining.
He said,
Go ahead.
I think it was called "Why Shenmue is the best open world game" or something like that.
Yeah, and since then I've been like preaching those words, for, shoving it down people's throat, like like this is why you should get it. And
that's an amazing 6.5 minute video for anybody out there. It perfectly articulates why you need to play. Like, stop listening to us, go watch that video. Like, they do a way better job.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Don't stop listening. Seriously, don't listen to me.
And the what I loved about it is that it was able to teach me a little more with, again, not ruining, like, no spoilers. And that's what I liked. And I learned things like, the river that changes color, based on seasons, I believe, correct? Or is it? Yeah, that one, like, that's a real life thing. And the small things that you can do, like I remember you can go look at your Sega Saturn that's in your room. Just the small things. And I've been hearing a lot of statements like, this game is more open world than Grand Theft Auto. And the thing that came into my mind was like, bullshit. I was like, I've played Grand Theft Auto. I could go kick a girl in the face and then go fly in a helicopter. But then, I watched this video and I was like, it actually is more open world than Grand Theft Auto. Like, you can look at anything, touch anything. You can be this person, just like you said, you could immerse yourself. So I just pretty much think that it's amazing that Shenmue 3 is even coming out. So congratulations to you. Congratulations to your friends that are also fans of it. Random question. Is Mrs. Claus as enthusiastic about Shenmue as you are?
She has never played it. No, that you'll find that's common. Most people have never played it, which is part of why you really got into Shenmue at exactly the wrong time, because the day before E3, Shenmue was a bargain bin game. Like, you could pick it up at stores on eBay, whatever, for like nothing, because everyone was convinced it's worthless. It'll never matter. It was that fun game from 14 years ago. Who cares? And then, of course, it got announced, and everybody's like, well, how do I play it? Is it on Steam? Is it on the Xbox Live or PSN? Where is it? It's like, oh, it's only on the fucking Dreamcast and the Xbox. And even the Xbox version doesn't have a digital version on like Xbox Live. So it's like, damn it. So like everybody started, hunting them down. So they went from, a couple bucks to like $60. Like, dude, I used to see the Xbox version of Shenmue 2 at GameStops for like $3, and they couldn't get rid of them. And like, really, fast forward like a week later, to E3, and it's like, all right, never mind. So I'm really glad I amassed my Shenmue collection when I did.
Yeah, I mean, you got a fortune now. You can retire. Fuck your 401k. Yeah. So I just wanted to cover that. I felt like Shenmue was definitely a worthy topic, and I wanted to inform some people. So moving on for a little bit, you do a lot of commentary on gaming, and it's basically not just Dreamcast, but it's like all game consoles that I've never heard of, never seen. I think I never will see. Include a fun console that I like to talk about its existence at the very least is the Pippin that Apple.
Yes,
the Apple made, and why it was so awesome for me to watch you cover Pippin was because I hear so many hipsters nowadays say, if Apple made a game console, I would buy it. I'm like, so why don't you have the Pippin?
Yeah. Well, ironically, I never actually covered the Pippin. All right, I think what you're referring to is the recap series, which I can tell you a story about later if you want. But I don't own a Pippin. But I did see one. I was at Gamescom 2015 this year, and they had a fucking Pippin just there. Playable, just sitting there. And there was no line, nobody gave a shit. Nobody wanted to play with a damn Apple Pippin. So I was like, I do, motherfucker, I do. So I sat down, I was like, Philippa, film me now. It's like, all right. And so we just played with the Apple Pippin, and I gave it as thorough of a review as I could in that really tiny, awkward environment. But it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. Because I mean, they only had whatever game was in there, which was just some like point and click type of thing. And the controller was abysmal. it has this like, you know, trackball in the center that's like a mouse, and I was like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. It's got button placement that's really weird. I still want one. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have an Apple Pippin, but you are absolutely right when you say that people who are like, well, Apple could make the greatest console ever. It's like, motherfucker, they did, and it was terrible. 95, they put out a game console that was so bad that they retired from game consoles permanently. Okay, they're not coming back with game consoles. That was like during that weird era where Steve Jobs wasn't there. So they made all these horrible decisions that ran them into the ground before he saved them again. And the Pippin was just part of that. Like, it just was terrible. The only place it did even moderately well was Japan, where they didn't even really acknowledge that Apple had anything to do with it. They said that Bandai made it for localization reasons. So if you ever want to buy one, buy the Japanese version, because it's the only one you'll ever find.
You know, and I think hopefully I'm right, because you know I have the memory of a dog, but I think it's hilarious that you said the best game on it, isn't it a Power Rangers game?
That what I said was that was the only one I could even think of, which is now I guess I can think of whatever point and click adventure I was playing. They had some Power Rangers Zeo pinball game, I think it was. I've never played it, because until literally a few weeks ago, I had never held a Pippin controller. I had never tried to use one. But yeah, there is a Power Rangers Zeo game. I think there might be at best like 10 games on that console. And that's, you know, yeah, not just something to have as like a collector, to be like, yeah, check it out, I got an Apple Pippin. But like beyond that, it's really just good for the story. It's not good as an actual form of entertainment.
I just think it's so funny that you just seen one sitting there at Gamescom, all alone, unattended. They're like, nobody will steal this.
Yeah, no, see, that was the thing, is that there were a bunch of random game consoles around, but a lot of people were playing them. They were playing the more obvious ones, like the N64s. They had like 10 of them set up. Everybody was playing them. GameCubes, everybody was playing them. Everybody was even playing the Virtual Boy. But the Pippin, no one was touching it. And I was like, you guys are nuts. You should try this. Let's try this thing. I mean, how often do you get to play a Pippin?
And it's funny because I could only imagine you. I mean, I seen the video, but like me having the same feeling you did, like that excitement to be playing such a piece of shit. So it's like,
exactly.
This is amazing. It's a piece of crap.
It's really hard to explain that feeling to most people, because they're like, but it's a piece of crap. It's like, yeah, but don't you see why it's exciting? Because it's ridiculous that this is a thing, that this exists. It's funny. So it gets you excited just on this. I don't know. When it comes to video games, it isn't just the games that excite me. I like everything about a console. Like, I like the history about it. I like the aesthetics of it. I like what the games look like, what the cases look like. It's all just this big package deal where it isn't only the game itself that amuses me. It's also, here's how this thing even came into existence, amuses me.
Yeah, I mean, that's really exciting. Like, I find that stuff exciting myself. It's very informative. And then I kind of base how enthusiastic and if I will support a product based on why they come into the industry. Because there's some that come into the industry thinking it's easy money. Some that come into the industry because they're desperate, you know, which I think that's pretty much why the Pippin came in, because I mean, it was in between, you know, Steve Jobs leaving and returning, and they were just trying to come out with any product. So that's pretty much why I like that kind of stuff. And there, I got the Dreamcast a little too late, but when I saw that they came out with the Dreamcast because they wanted to right all their wrongs and they're so serious and they're for the gamer, and I was like, I have to have one of these things. I just have to. I absolutely have to. So you do cover all generations, all gaming consoles, as much as you can. Which generation do you think is your favorite?
I want to dive into that specific first part about how I cover all consoles. I will answer your question, but I want to answer that part first. Okay, so one series that I guess I'm best known for, which I really didn't intend on, was this thing I came up with called a Generation Recap series, which was really just an excuse to initially, when the 8th gen consoles came out, when they were all out, the PS4, Xbox One, and Wii U, I was like, you know what would be kind of cool is to make like these almost funeral videos for the Xbox 360, the Wii, and the PS3 now that they were finally done. So that that was it. I just did that. And then people were like, hey, we really like that. Can you talk about the new ones? Because you have them. I was like, all right. So I did that. And then I really had no plans to go any further with it. And then people were like, hey, 6th gen, Xbox, GameCube, PS2, Dreamcast, do those. I was like, really? All right. So I did them. I was like, all right, there's your little bonus, guys. You guys wanted this for some reason. And then it was like, hey, 5th gen. So it just kept happening. And now I guess I owe people the 3rd gen still, which is going to be almost impossible because there's like 14 consoles in the 3rd generation. I own 3 of them. So it's like, yeah, there's a limit to how far back you can go before you just run out of material, but I'll give them the best I can. So in regards to your question about which one is my favorite, that is a huge toss up between the 6th generation and the 4th generation. 6th generation would be Xbox, PS2, GameCube, Dreamcast, and the 4th generation is commonly thought of as just the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. It also includes things like the TurboGrafx 16, the Pioneer Laser Active, the Neo Geo AES, and some other random ones in there, most of which I did videos on. But yeah, I don't know. That's a tough call because my favorite console of all time is 6th gen. My second favorite is 4th gen. My third favorite is 4th gen, and my fourth favorite is 6th gen. So it's like they kind of average out, like on any given day, I'll tell you, oh yeah, 6th gen. Then the next day, 4th gen. Like that's impossible, man. Like every day that changes. It's such a tough one to answer. Are you going to force me to answer that question?
No, not at all. Like you have to right now. This is a little.
Have to. All right. Yes. If I have to answer that, I will probably say 6th gen, but damn, that is close. And that's how I feel today. Maybe tomorrow I'm like, I can't believe I said 6th gen. I meant 4th gen. Like
I'm an idiot.
But today I'm thinking 6th gen makes sense. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I kind of wanted to take a side note based on what you said too, because I thought it was hilarious. My favorite video of the whole generation videos that you do. What's the title of those, by the way? Again, I forget.
I don't even know if they really have a title. I just call them the generation recap stuff, and then I just like update it with whatever generation and what console it is. So commonly referred to as generation recap series.
Okay. So my favorite generation recap series video was the Wii. And
Jesus Christ.
I'm not a fan of the Wii. I don't hate it, but like there's a few games on there I like, but by no means am I going to go out tomorrow and be like, I should get one. No, I'll pick one up in 30 years if I see it. But why I loved it so much is because I think it's like 22 or 26 minutes and that you went on just pretty much bashing the Wii. And you're like the most impartial guy, the most just brutally honest and just genuine about these things. And I'm like, it's just hilarious to watch you sit here for like 22 minutes just saying why you don't like it. I mean, you're not even saying you don't like it. You're just saying things that are so negative that makes nobody want to go out there and buy it. And you're like, my sister bought this and she's not even a gamer. And, people want to flick the remote and, it was just hilarious. So I feel like it was a comedy video, even though you're being totally serious. I felt like you're doing comedy.
I get that reaction a lot on that one. That one is very mixed. People either really love it and be like, this is right, this dude gets it, or they're like, fuck you, man, it has Super Mario Galaxy. And I'm just like, I want to articulate one point that I said in that video, but typically people who love the Wii never get to that point in the video, is that my issue with the console was never the games. It was never the console itself. There was two things, really. One was the marketing and how they focused it on, like, your grandmother. It's like, if they're marketing this thing to your grandmother, it's probably not for you. You know what I'm saying? But that's like, whatever. Even if it was aimed at your grandmother and had like an amazing experience, who cares? But the thing is, it didn't. It had like this defective, shitty, gimmicky controller. I didn't want to wave a magic wand around to play a video game. I wanted to, play a video game. And that's how I always felt about it. It was like every time I was checking out this game, I was like, even with Super Mario Galaxy, when I was playing it, I was like, this would be so awesome if I could just use a controller and I didn't have to arbitrarily shake my hands around. And, I just didn't like that aspect of it. And every time I had to do that, I just found it annoying. You know, it never seemed to really aid in any particular game that I wanted to play. And I know other people will disagree and say like, no, I loved it. And that's fine. I'm not knocking anybody. The whole point of the video is for me to express this is how I felt about it. I'm not saying you have to feel that way, but you know, shit happens.
A side note there, since we're on the whole Nintendo thing and the Wii and things that are shitty. Did you have, by any chance, have you read about how Nintendo, we all know the content creators ID and they're doing copyright stuff. Have you read about how they're cracking down on ROM hackers now? Yes,
that's unbelievably stupid.
Well, yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to touch on that randomly now, since, you know, you're a big YouTuber and I'm extremely tiny, and I almost never worry about copyright strikes. I'm like, I don't care if I get one, I'll get one. My channel is almost non-existent. So if it goes away tomorrow, it's like my day, you know, nothing never ever changed. But like, I was thinking like, has this content creators thing affected you in any way at all?
So you may not know about this about me, but I actually work on 4 channels. The channel you know me for is a pet project. So the channels I work on are this one, obviously, Game Society Pimps. We got like 370,000 subs on that channel. Blame Society Films, which is like a comedy sketch channel. That's got like 230,000 or something. And I also work on Machinima. You know, Machinima's got like 12 million. Though I just work, I'm like a hired gun for them. You know, I don't actually control their channel or anything like that. But so yes, the content ID war has affected us in a few different ways. Basically, when it comes to Nintendo, we just stopped covering anything of their games. At least on Game Society Pimps, we had nothing to do with them anymore. They never actually went after us, which was nice, but we were a tad preemptive. Game Society Pimps only had, actually, no, I take that back. We used to have a different channel called Game Society Films, and we got a content ID strike at some point randomly. And they said like we stole some music from Apple, which wasn't true at all. And we're like, we proved that we didn't, because it was a song like we made. And while we were proving it, they shut down the entire channel and then eventually said, oh, you were right, you didn't steal this song. We're like, can we have our channel back? They said no. So we had to start a whole new fucking channel because YouTube's system is terribly broken. On my channel, I don't really do much gameplay. However, there have been incidents where I will get some sort of strike, or usually now it's just like a warning, like saying, hey, you know, this video had to be demonetized because it contained a sound effect from you know, some other video that came out 10 years ago or something. So yeah, that's irritating. Every time that happens, I tend to take care of it by using YouTube's editor to like delete the sound effect and just undo the problem, because you do not want to leave strikes or even ID claims on your channel, even if they're like, oh, you can still watch the video, even if you don't care about the monetization or whatever. If your channel has an ID claim on it, then YouTube kind of recognizes your channel as probably not a legitimate one, not one worth sharing the videos of, and therefore you don't get put into their algorithm. Therefore, people don't see your videos as often. So you should always resolve that problem as quickly as possible. The most extreme one I ever had on my channel was that I played Jurassic Park, the game by Telltale Games, which was this game that took place right after the first Jurassic Park movie and in between the first and second movies. And I captured the entire gameplay. I edited it into a 2.5-hour film. And I don't mean like a walkthrough. I mean a film. Like it's got a score, it's got, yeah, it's edited properly, you know, and all that stuff. And I had it up there for like a year before I randomly got some sort of music claim on it, not from Telltale. Now, I kind of work in the gaming industry to some extent. I have contacts at various companies. I actually contacted Telltale and I was like, did you guys do this? And they're like, no, we think this video is awesome. And I was like, well, who is making this claim? They're like, we have no idea. But YouTube would not allow me to fix it. So I ended up having to go back in to the original source material, make some changes, and then re-export it and re-upload it, which was the biggest pain in the ass I ever had to deal with. But I mean, there's people like Angry Joe who have to deal with way worse shit than I've ever had to dream of. But yeah, that content ID thing is just stupid as hell. And Nintendo lately is the biggest guilty culprit of that. I mean, they going after people playing ROM hacks from games from the 80s. Are you serious? Like, what is the point? They're giving you infinite free advertising in a way you could not possibly dream of. Like, you could never afford to give you the kind of free advertising they get. I actually picked up Super Mario Maker today, and I was playing with that game for a bit, and I was checking out, like, oh, you can make your own levels and you can upload your own levels. I'm like, this game was tailor-made for YouTube, for sharing, for people to be like, check out this is my entire video on my level. You can download it, there's a link in the description or whatever. That game could take over YouTube the way fucking Minecraft did if they really pushed it. But instead, they do everything to squash that out so that they can live in a box. I don't get it. But one thing we do know about these, every time there's an issue like this where there's a company that's going nuts after people, almost always you'll find that the company is Japanese and the head of whoever's making the decision is someone in Japan. There's something about them in this case that they're just not getting. I know with Konami, they're Japanese. They're one of the few that's still going after them. Sega, like I mentioned earlier in this video, was, until we eventually found out Sega of America and Sega of Europe basically forced Sega of Japan to stop doing that. And the deal they struck was that if you're in North America, Europe, or I guess Australia as well, your videos would be immune to it. But if you like uploaded it from Japan, they'll still take it down. Wow. Which is fucking weird. So it's something about, I guess, I do not know. I'm not Japanese. I've never even been to Japan, but it seems like to be some sort of cultural disconnect between the West and the East on this specific thing, where we see it as free advertising, they see it as piracy. That's obviously not an absolute. It's just kind of a trend that seems to be the case.
I think it's sad because I think I've never been one of those guys that's like, Nintendo's dying, this is it, it's over. Because I've been hearing that growing up my whole life, and I've never felt that way. And even to this point, I don't feel this way, but I kind of, I feel like there's nothing from making me feel that way, or nothing stopping me from making me feel that way next generation. Because every time I think like, they're going to come out with the NX and blow everybody away and this and that, they do something like this. I wake up and read that article where they're coming after ROM hackers. I'm like, Nintendo, I feel like they are seriously giving the biggest FU they can to their fan base. I don't know any reason they would do that. Like, I feel like they want to die. It's I don't know. And it's the company that saved the gaming industry, the company that survived bombardments and attacks from Sega, the company that survived the PlayStation and it arriving with the DVD player. And they didn't play DVDs, and which a lot of people would say that, the Dreamcast died because they didn't play DVDs. And I'm like, well, the GameCube didn't either. And look at that. I feel like it's gone through so much and it's proven itself. And it's starting to become like that old senior citizen that survived all these wars, and now he's just become crazy.
This is kind of unrelated, but it's funny when you bring up the DVD thing with Nintendo. With the exception of the Panasonic GameCube, which was like a Japanese only variant they did, there has never been a Nintendo system that either read DVDs or even music CDs, which is kind of amazing. I remember that being funny to me whenever Club Nintendo would send out these like music CDs. I'm like, oh, it's pretty funny. You sent this thing out that can only be played on your competition, but not on you. But yeah, it's not really related, but yeah, I don't know what the hell Nintendo's plan is. I've been talking about that for a while. I always thought that what made sense was you weren't going to win with the Wii U. That was never going to happen. But what you could do is make the Wii U appealing, make it cool, make it something that people like, and get it into homes and just kind of recover your brand. And Super Mario Maker, if they had kind of integrated that along with a pro YouTube policy, that would be huge for them. Same with Smash Brothers, like all of their big franchises. If they had been pro YouTube, it's amazing how much better they could be doing. But I think they just don't get it. I think you just have a bunch of like old fucks who just have no idea how the world works right now. And they're just so behind on these kinds of trends. And we've noticed that all sorts of companies that at one time were against YouTube are now in favor of it and actually try to swoon people to make videos for them because they're like, we can't afford this level of advertising they would be giving us. It's I don't know what to tell you, man, with Nintendo. I mean, I have been hearing that same thing too about how they, every generation, they're going out of business, whatever. I think you're getting dangerously close to that being true. Because if they come out with NX and it sucks and it bombs, it doesn't do well, it kind of repeats the Wii U. I don't know where you put them, because people already think the Wii U is a joke, and it's great. The Wii was successful for different reasons, but I mean, you put the NX out there mid-generation cycle for the other consoles, and we're hearing all these stories about how it might be underpowered under the PS4, which doesn't make any sense, because then you're already where you are with the Wii U. I don't know how they are going to recover from that. And even if they put out this console that's like super beefy, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's the equivalent of like a mid-range gaming PC or something, more powerful than the PS4, whatever. In like 2 years after that, 3 years after that, whatever Sony or Microsoft put out, if they put out anything, by the way, where does that leave Nintendo? Once again, they're just straggling behind. I mean, they kind of go to the beat of their own drum, but I think they need to kind of sync up with everyone else in a certain marketing sense.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah, what do you think, man?
I think they do need to sync up, because I remember during my life, I was used to, like, when I hear a console's coming out, I'm like, oh, that means the other competitors are coming out with consoles too. Let me see what they got going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was weird for me when the Dreamcast came out, because it came out early, and then the other consoles came after. And then I felt like, well, okay, we're going to get back into the rhythm of things. But then Xbox came out with the 360 a year before the Nintendo Wii and the PS3. But I felt like that was acceptable. But it was still close enough, because people were like, the 360's out. Where are the other ones? Oh, okay, they're not here yet. They're coming out within a year. That's fine. And I feel like the Nintendo got greedy, because the Wii was doing so great in terms of sales, and they wanted that success again. Well, we all know the Wii slowed down in sales because they were becoming paperweights, because the tablets and mobile phones market took off, and their customer base was casual gamers. So I think they wanted to do what Xbox did with the 360, because the 360 was extremely successful. But I think instead of using common sense, like, the 360 was successful for having a large hard drive. Well, at the time,
that 20 gigs, man.
At the time,
that blew everybody away.
I know. I was like, what am I going to do with this? I don't get it.
When will I fill up 20 gigs? That's impossible. Memory saves are like a couple kilobytes. Jeez.
Like my 8 megabyte memory card would still, it was not even full yet.
I can't believe there were memory cards for that first fat 360. People forget that.
I had them. I was one of those guys, because I was like, I don't need a hard drive.
Yeah. Fuck hard drives. When are you gonna need that?
They had the hard drives. They instead of saying, oh, it's because they had a hard drive, because they have multiple consoles that made it accessible to certain customers. Came out with a lot of indies. Well, not as many as the PS3, I believe, but it came out with some pretty good indies, had a lot of AAA games, a lot of third-party support. It was easy to make games on. It had almost infinite anti-aliasing. Instead of saying all those things like, that's why it was successful, let's mimic that, I feel like all they did was, it came out a year ahead. That's the only reason why it's doing good. Let's do the same thing. And I feel like they're eating that.
Yeah, I think you're basically right. That, and they were like, well, what made the Wii successful? Well, it had this weird gimmicky thing. What's popular right now? Tablets. All right, fuse them together. And that's how you got the Wii U. The irony, though, is that the Wii U is awesome. And again, this comes from someone who, as you pointed out, detested the Wii. I detested it. But the Wii U is phenomenal. I love that game console. But, I mean, yeah, I don't, honestly, I mean, if I was in charge of marketing over there, which I'm obviously not, I would have told them, just suck it up with the Wii U for a couple more years. I mean, 5 years would have been a respectable lifespan. That's a normal lifespan. 4 is actually, which is what they're likely going to get, is not that bad. It's just that in modern times, 4 seems like a really short amount of time to most people, which is screwed up when you think about it. Most people who... All right, so we have to take into account that the Xbox 360 launched 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And you are still getting games for it. Now, that means if someone was like, 5 years old when the 360 came out and they got it at Christmas. That was their big, oh my God, Christmas, yay. They've had that still, and they're now 15. They're like getting ready to drive. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't understand necessarily firsthand that consoles are supposed to change hands every few years. Because when we were growing up, because you said you're 27, I'm 28. So when we were growing up, consoles you get new ones all the time, especially in the 90s when you had all those graveyard consoles that kept coming out all the time. But it wasn't always that stable, where you had all these 3 different consoles that were kind of rolling for the better part of a decade. So when that generation, that same 15-year-old looks over at the Wii U and he's like, this thing came out in 2012 and it's already over. What is that? Yeah. It's hard to get behind the company that made that. And I think that really it's a lot of history, both intentional and accidental and stuff, is kind of culminating into creating Nintendo's problems, along with just terrible, terrible business decisions. But I don't know. Honestly, this isn't something that was hard to predict. I mean, I made a video like 2 or 3 years ago saying that I figured there not only won't be future game consoles, but if there are, I think Nintendo's the only one who will do it. And they'll likely do it in holiday 2016, which is looking to be more and more correct. I hope that I'm wrong because I would love to see more game consoles. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not even convinced that NX will be a real game console because now we're hearing things like it won't have a disc drive, though it might use some sort of flash-based media, which I would be fine with. But yeah, because I don't support digital, in case your listeners don't know. Here. But yeah, so if the NX is an all-digital machine, that's it. I'm not buying new Nintendo products anymore. But so I hope that the Wii U at least gets a few more AAA titles on it, at least Nintendo first-party ones, before it goes under completely.
And I think something that's interesting is that when you were mentioning how you and I were used to consoles coming out, every 4 to 5 years, that was normal. And now with the last generation, like the 360, it's 10 years old. Yeah, I was listening to Rich again, and he was talking about how, like, if you were born
Tech USA,
yeah,
okay,
and if you were born that year, you're 10 now, and and you've only gotten one more console since then. So it's definitely really different for me. And let's say they were 5. These kids, they don't want to let go of their console. They're like, why would I get another console? Why would I get the Wii U, which it has less games than my 360? Mm-hmm. It's supposedly more powerful, but it doesn't show it in any of its games. If I want to play my Wii U and upload my video on YouTube, I'm going to get flagged if I don't partner with them. It's like very unappealing to like mm-hmm. those kids. Like for you and I, it's different. It's the case is a little different because you like it. I personally love it. I mean, the gamepad does become very useful. I play, Smash Brothers and Super Mario World and Bayonetta 2 and Mario Kart and Splatoon like no tomorrow. And I can't tell you why I play Splatoon so much, but I got Gears of War and I thought I would have put Splatoon away, and I'm playing Gears of War and I'm staring at the Splatoon game case. It's like calling me. So the console is literally fun, but that company is just not, it's not getting it. Like you said, it's something about the Japanese, business or person, and not in a racial way. They just don't they don't get it, how this industry works anymore at the very least.
Yeah. It's just gotta be some sort of cultural difference that there's just a disconnect there. And, it's unfortunate. It's really all you can say about it, because you feel like if you were in there, you could make a lot of these changes for them and really get them to right the ship, because it seems so obvious, but they don't seem to get it. It's like I said, it's not entirely without historical precedence. I mean, the Atari 2600 was out for like a really long time, and then when they released its successor, the 5200, people looked at it, were like, what? Why do you have to make new consoles? What is this? So that system failed. But then if you go to their next one, it was a 7800, which brought them into the ground. So I really don't want to see that happen with Nintendo. But history is working against them, and if they do not shape up and just really kind of see how trends are working, it's going to be really hard to say what their future is. I mean, they can't make amiibos forever, dude. Like they're in a financially, they're fine right now, but like every year they're eating it more and more and more because they're making money on 3DS, but all of that profit is being eaten completely by the Wii U. They're
Absolutely.
making profit on the amiibos, but that's all being eaten by the Wii U, which is no doubt why they want to get rid of the Wii U. But if you bring out the NX and it's even worse, like first of all, who is really at this point excited about the NX? Because they haven't given us anything to go off of. Now, granted, that's probably because they intend to do that next year, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't see how they're going to convince a whole bunch of people to jump on NX when they couldn't convince them to jump onto the Wii U.
I'm sure it's going to be another gimmick, which I am reading, and it's all rumors and speculation, obviously, but they're talking about some sort of hybrid console, and I'm just already like face palming because to me that's just so complicated. Make a box, get a decent remote, make it respectively powerful, and ship it.
Yeah,
that's what I think they need to do.
See, I would love to see Nintendo do kind of what they did, basically during the SNES era, which is just kind of be competitive. At some point, Nintendo kind of bowed out of that around, I would say, the GameCube era. Towards the end of the GameCube era, they just kind of said, all right, we're going to go off in a corner and kind of do our own thing, which is really why you got what the Wii ended up being. And I know you mentioned Rich in Review Tech USA, and he says this a lot, and I think he's absolutely right in that regard, which is if Nintendo had a console that had Nintendo's first-party IPs, but also was able to get all of the third-party IPs that, the big ones, your, stuff by like Ubisoft and Activision, whatever, all your Call of Duties, your Assassin's Creeds, and so on. If it could have that, it might really help it out. But, it goes beyond that. As we were saying before, they have to understand modern trends, and modern trends would include things like YouTube. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. I think that unless they change, they're going to die a horrible death. And I really don't want them to, because I love Nintendo. Even though, like, I didn't like the Wii, I must hate them. It's like, no, I love Nintendo, and I want to see them do very well. But yeah, I don't see how that's going to happen unless they really right that ship.
They have to get that real they have to make a decent console for the hardcore gamer. But something I also think they need is, obviously we've been saying it for years, is third-party support, because we haven't really seen that heavy third-party support since the SNES. And I something that I'm thinking, I could just be a conspiracy theorist, but I think that what happens is nobody wants to make games for their console because, like, on the Wii, they had such a massive install base, correct? And they would make, these developers and publishers would get these good games on there. For example, Mad World, and Mad World, almost nobody bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really great game. So I'm thinking that's probably why on the PS4, all these third-party companies are making games for the PS4, because they don't have to compete with Sony's first-party games, because Sony really isn't releasing first-party games at all. So they get more exposure, they get more airtime on the ads, and and so forth. And I feel like on the Wii U, they don't want to compete with Smash Brothers, because they know their game may not be as fun or sell as well. Even if it is better and way more fun, it probably won't sell as well, because I can't say the word. I'm sorry if I say it wrong. I think it's notoriety.
Notoriety, yeah.
And if someone's going to be like, oh, Smash Brothers, or are they going to be like Watch Dogs? So I feel like that might be something that is attributing to the disaster that's happening, or I don't know. I'm just making it up in my head, but I hope they do have another SNES moment, and it better be with the NX, because it's not going to be with whatever it is after it.
There is one other aspect to it. I'm going to give you some inside info here, because I was just at PAX Prime, so I was able to talk to a lot of developers.
Sweet.
So I won't mention any company's names or any individuals' names, but I talked to multiple developers that either had games for the Wii U or still do, or will be releasing them, I should say. And in every single instance, they were like, oh God, because they hate working with Nintendo. They hate working with Nintendo because apparently Nintendo has a lot of very specific and odd restrictions on games. Like they were famous for that in the NES era, where they would like make you sign these weird deals that said you had to guarantee this many copies and you had to adhere a certain code of conduct in the game, and Nintendo had the right to change things, blah blah blah. Every once in a while you'll hear some article about a developer kind of complaining how they haven't updated. Well, apparently that's pretty much literally true. If you're going to release a game for Nintendo, I don't know exactly what the specifics would be, but I know that they put developers through kind of a pain in the ass process. But the difference was then the NES was the best game in town. It was going to sell. Now developers are like, dude, even if it's sold mediocre, it's just not worth the hassle of dealing with Nintendo, which is why, there's certain games that just, even though they could put them out on the Wii U, they would run fine. And even if sales were expected to be okay, they just don't do it because they're like, it's just not worth dealing with Nintendo. Nintendo is a headache. And I was like, that's impressive that's still a problem. So they unfortunately, as recently as August of 2015, when I was talking at the end of August 2015, when I was talking to all these developers, Nintendo has not changed a bit in that regard. And that scares the hell out of me, because if you're preparing this new console that's supposedly going to be the thing that equalizes you, you're going to need third-party support. But apparently they haven't changed a damn thing, which sucks.
That's insane. I mean, you got to be, it reminds me of like maybe someone who's, what's the word, going to rehab. They're just like in denial of what, of something that they have to get done. I know you wanted to keep it at an hour. Would you like to wrap things up here?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Well, I really wanted to thank you again for stopping by and giving me time of day. In case the people who are going to be watching this, you didn't know, this guy is like the reason why I went on YouTube. I just got tired of holding on to my passion and my knowledge of gaming. And I was like, I just want to talk to somebody about it, like anybody, and see if someone will listen, because I can just talk for a long time. Believe it or not, a lot of my first videos were long, and I had people telling me, make my videos shorter because I just keep talking. So I don't know if I got that from you or if it's just...
Yeah, sorry about that. I spread that. Like, dude, here's the thing. I get that all the time. And eventually I just ignore it. It's a bad note. Like it's one thing to shorten the video if all you're doing is being extremely redundant. But if you're actually saying things, a lot of people just complain because they're like, oh, the video is too long generically without having watched it. But then I found once you get to a certain point, people are like, what's with the short videos? Longer. You'll find your audience. The audience will find you. That's just how it works. Eventually people are like, oh, good, 20 minutes of this. I like this. So
that's how I am.
Quote, fuck the haters. Quote, fuck the haters.
It's just surprising to me that you get haters, because I'm like, he's the most enjoyable YouTuber I've found. I don't understand how you even got haters.
It happens all the time, dude.
What do they do? Hate on the beard?
Don't forget, I said the Wii wasn't the best thing ever. Therefore, oh my God, kill him. Someone told me to die in a car crash because of that video. It's like, all right, keep it classy, buddy. It happens all the time, dude.
Do you delete those comments?
Very rarely. It has to be some serious shit for me to actually delete comments. Fortunately, YouTube's spam system got a lot better. So there's a lot of people who are notorious, trolls, obviously, go around and they write shitty comments on a lot of people. So if somebody's deleting their comments on other videos, YouTube's like, all right, this person's probably a dick. And then anytime they comment on your video, it goes automatically to your spam system. So you likely will never even see it until you go to your spam and be like, oh, look, 800 messages that I've never seen before. And they're all like, fuck this guy, shit like that. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are, and I don't care.
Well, thanks for the advice. I need it. I'm fairly determined in growing my community and growing as a person and personality. I know I've only been doing this for almost 3 months now, but in my videos, at first I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to be talking about, and now I'm like super loud and I won't shut the hell up. So I feel like it's working, but I do want to grow, and I appreciate the advice. And I do look at what you do and what some other YouTubers do, and I try to take what I feel like I could use for myself and move forward. Thanks again for stopping by. Hopefully this isn't the last time, because I've seen you go on other podcasts just once, and I was kind of hoping on my own, or in my own mind, that you would do that again, and I haven't seen that. So if hopefully we get to do this, whether it be a year, a week, or 5 years, or when they announce that the Dreamcast 2 is on Kickstarter.
That'll never happen, dude.
I would definitely like to have a chat with you.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do this again. What podcast are you referring to?
The one that you did with Rich from Review Tech. You guys were like, we'll do this again, and you never did. I was like, damn it.
Give you 2 quick stories about that podcast. That video was supposed to be 10 minutes long. Ended up being about 90. It was just not intentional, although it was very fun. The other thing about this is actually coming full circle here now, because the thing that made Rich aware of my existence was that he saw my video on the Wii. And he agreed with me like 1,000%, and he shared it on Facebook and everything. And he was just like, yeah, this guy gets it. The Wii sucks ass, and these are all the reasons why it sucks. And I was like, well, that's really flattering. And we started talking to each other back and forth for a bit. And we actually tried to get together to do that podcast for like a year. But our schedules are so unbelievably packed that it just like never happened until one day he was like, all right, tomorrow I'm available at this time. And I was like, I happen to be as well. He's like, 10 minutes. It's all we got. Let's just do it. And then it fucking ends up being 90. But it didn't matter. We just stayed up late, had extra coffee. It was fine. But yeah, so we do want to do more. It's just like, when? Like, when's that going to happen? We're both working around the clock all the time. I mean, I work 7 days a week, and I'm sure he does too. So it's hard to find the time to do stuff like that.
I definitely hope it happens. I'm looking forward to that. Well, thank you for everybody stopping by. I'm going to head on out. Adam got some things he needs to get done. Some guy told him to go die in a car accident. Yeah. So thanks for swinging by. Hopefully you will check out Adam's channel if you haven't heard of him. Quite a few of you somehow have told me that, you haven't heard of him. Check out his channel. It's under Adam Koralik. He's from Figure It Out Productions. His videos are extremely entertaining. If you're one of the people that told me my videos are too long, then I guess you shouldn't go check out his channel.
Yeah, you probably won't like it too much, guys.
Please don't forget to comment below with any of your questions. Is there anything you got to say before we wrap this up?
Nah, man. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. And everybody, as always, thanks for watching.
Have a good one.